Us now, State Senator from Virginia Beach, Republican Jeff McWaters. Hey, Senator, great to have you.
Good morning, Commander. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Crossover day. How'd you make out?
It was a busy day on the floor yesterday. Actually, we got through the calendar in about 5 hours. The calendar is all the bills that we have to look at that could be first, second, or third readings, and a lot of joint resolutions. I think we had a really very successful first half, if you will, of the legislative season. The Republican caucus, I think, has done some really good work.
What was the major thing that came in crossover day that you were the most excited about?
Well, there's not, I guess probably there weren't a lot of surprises. We were able to kind of stay focused on our work. The ethics bill took a fair amount of time, and it was kind of brought up. The process kind of required it to be brought up at the last minute in some ways, and so I wish I'd had a little more time to spend on it, but I knew pretty much what was in it and where the thing was headed. And but the work we did on the budget, the work we've done to get our caucus in a position to figure out how to balance the budget without raising taxes. That's the number one thing we come up here goal-wise every year with, at least many of us do. And how to do that in a way that is fair and thinks about, where we need to invest in Virginia. So that's been a very, this year, even though it's a half year in the first 2 years of the governor's budget, we worked really hard at that.
Well, Senator, let's get to ethics reform. There was only one Republican that didn't vote on it, and that was, I think, Senator Tom Garrett from Louisa or the Goochland area. He criticized it. Tommy Norman's been on every side of it. He introduced it, then he complained about it, then he was for it. But there was a lot of hand-wringing yesterday concerning the ethics bill that, you guys were pressured into it by people like me in the media. And, look, I'm part of that. I've complained about it every day, so I understand that. But some saying that this is media orchestrated and that really it's a quagmire, tripwires. Retiring Senator Watkins made an interesting comment yesterday on the floor when he said, good thing I'm going to get out because I could never figure this thing out. How bad is it, and can you guys comply with it? Well,
let me say this, that, there was a lot of discussion. There's no question about it. And look, some of this is posturing. Some of it's frustration. Some of it's people being tired. I didn't pay attention to any of it, to be frank with you. The people that elect us expect us to not take gifts. They expect us to not take things from people that wouldn't give them to us if it weren't for the fact we're elected. That doesn't mean that your friends that have been your friends shouldn't be able to give you an occasional gift, as we do often as friends, as human beings, and that kind of thing. But look, this is just the price of having a job. You sign up for it. You shouldn't be taking trips. You shouldn't be taking gifts. You shouldn't be getting things that you otherwise wouldn't get as a citizen of the Commonwealth. So, it's a tangle web we've woven. It's a complicated thing, but just don't take gifts. And that's what I've been doing for virtually since I've been up here. I mean, every now and then somebody hand me a pen or something, and I'm so embarrassed to tell them, look, I can't take this trinket. But generally I do, but every now and then I'll just feel so bad, I'll give it to my assistant or someone and say, give this to somebody. And I'm talking about something that's like the NASA people came in the other day with a coffee cup. And I said, I just felt so bad about telling these fine people that I didn't want to take their coffee cup. I finally did. But I felt like a heel. But, it's just, it's a tone at the top. Right. It's just kind of what I got used to in business. We'll get used to it. We'll get over this, and we'll figure out how to play within the rules, and we'll try to I think it's good that we've made the rules better and clearer and tighter.
Okay, I think you guys did the right. Frank Wagner's Dominion Power rate freeze. On the surface, looks like a pretty good thing. I don't want my rates to go up. I can't stand when they go up. On the other hand, lack of transparency, no biannual reviews to be sure that people are getting overcharged, profits aren't too high. What say you?
Well, there are some reviews. It's not as if we just shut down the process of reviews. And by the way, people, there's a little misnomer in this that I really worry about getting out there, that rates are going to freeze. The base rate is going to freeze. There are other rates that could go up, fuel charges, other things that could cause people's electric power bills to go up. But here's why I think it's a good approach. It's not a perfect approach. This is a reaction to the overreach in Washington, which we talk about all the time, and people sometimes have a hard time thinking, okay, so there's this big bad EPA out there, and it's not doing a balanced and fair job with its regulations. So what? So how does that affect me? Well, I'll tell you how it affects you. In Virginia, we have been very aggressive in making sure that we have a good balanced approach to producing affordable and predictable energy. That's what business needs, that's what manufacturing needs, and that's what people in their homes need. So we've had a third nuclear, a third gas, and a third coal. And unfortunately, several coal plants that haven't met muster, haven't kept up with the technology, have been shut down, and more will be. But under the current EPA rules, which are so vague, and there's lawsuits, et cetera, so it's not clear the direction, the accounting on this may be the requirement to shut down $2.2 billion worth of coal plants prematurely. Now, a lot of people, have differing opinions about coal, but there has been a lot of work in making coal a more efficient energy source. But whether you like it or not, it produces a third of the energy in Virginia, and we still have to go outside of Virginia and buy energy. So if these companies had to write off expense automatically just because of some new EPA rules, $2.1 billion in cost, that would hit your power bill right away. All we're trying to do is say, look, let's wait until the EPA rules are clear, until the dust settles. Let's don't make these companies write down $2.1 billion, and then all of us pay that in our electric rates. And let's freeze their rates during this period of uncertainty so we have predictability. So I think it's good for the consumers. People are always kind of looking for a boogeyman in something, and, I think these companies are trying to be fair. I've looked for it to see myself. Are they, I've really spent a lot of time with these companies to try to figure out, are they trying to rip us off? I don't think so. I think they're really trying to be thoughtful about the next 5 years.
Jeff, let's get to tolling legislation. I know it's not front and center right now, but
I do want to come back to energy, by the way, though. I have a big meeting today from 2 to 5 at the Sheraton in downtown Norfolk. I don't know if you've been talking about that regarding offshore drilling. Yeah.
I have, and we're gonna get to that momentarily. Let's go to tolling for a second. New movement underfoot to allow Virginia to start putting tolls on interstates. These are roads that have already been paid for 5 times over. How do you stand on this?
Yeah, well, in general, I'm not wild about it. Okay, so I would try to do what I could to not have that occur. Now, having said that, there is some justification for it, and it's been done in other states. And some of the justification is that the money for the tolling, as you probably already know, will only go to improve that segment of highway. That money can't go somewhere else to another project. Mm-hmm. That's the law, and it's the feds are very tight on that one.
Right.
So, I look at some of our interstates, and I don't know how everything works in Washington because I serve in Richmond. But when I go through Tennessee, I drove all the way across Tennessee about a year ago. Mm-hmm. Maybe less than that, I drove practically all the way across North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Their interstate highways are much better than ours. They're mm-hmm. wider, they're flatter, mm-hmm. they're safer, mm-hmm. They're smoother. I mean, just unbelievable. And so part of that has been something we've lacked in Virginia, which we now have, is proper funding for transportation to match the federal funds to be able to get some of these highways done. So if it takes some pressure off the state budget to toll, or some would say tax, people coming through Virginia, just like I went through Tennessee or North Carolina, that they're doing commerce here, I can live with it. I do think local communities don't like it, but it's probably something we're going to have to look at doing. I'm not wild about it, but it's probably a requirement that we'll have to look at.
And before we get to this energy, I just want to tell everybody, just as an aside, we'll talk about this later on today, but pressure now in the House building on the president, House members and Republicans seeking $1 billion in military aid for the Ukraine. I'm still trying to figure out who died and left us in charge of Eastern Europe. If somebody can figure that out, tweet me, because for the life of me, why we're getting involved in that, again, is just, let's get on to energy. Now, today, to Senator McWaters at 2:30 p.m., there's going to be a bipartisan pro-offshore drilling event at the Norfolk Sheraton Waterside, 777 Waterside Drive. After the rally, the U.S. Bureau of Ocean Energy Management is going to hold a public hearing on offshore drilling at the hotel. Now, I strongly encourage anybody that is interested in this issue to attend the meeting to show how widespread the support is in Tidewater for offshore energy harvesting in Hampton Roads. It's going to spur job creation and uplift the economy. It's also going to make us more secure and independent. Good for national security. Senator, what say you?
You know, we live in a beautiful place, and I love the features of our Commonwealth, particularly in Tidewater, Hampton Roads area, you know, constantly. And in fact, I had 3 important bills in this year on issues related to keeping our bay clean and keeping the Chesapeake, the whole watershed clean. So, number one, all of us start there. Then you have to say, and so how are we going to continue to have a lifestyle and jobs and keep our kids employed and retire and raise a family in this community if we're at a cul-de-sac where there are no jobs? So we've worked for a long time on education, improving our great universities, Norfolk State, ODU, William and Mary, others that serve this area. And we've worked really hard on transportation to make sure that we're not, a cul-de-sac. And we worked really hard on other kinds of jobs, lots of jobs that are related to the healthcare sector, the sector that I come out of, et cetera. But we're sitting on a potential significant financial and energy opportunity, and energy has always driven commerce. It's always driven manufacturing. And this is competitive. Don't think that Maryland and North Carolina and other states aren't trying to squeeze us out like they did on the wind leases, on these oil leases. So I know that not everybody is in favor of this, given what we saw a couple of summers ago in the Gulf Coast. But I think that the majority of people, the data I've seen is in 60s, 65% range of people that are generally supportive of this. Look, this is a huge opportunity to explore for what could be $365 million a year in economic development. Some of the statistics I've seen, people differ on this because part of this is about, evaluating. But 500 million barrels of oil, 2.5 trillion cubic feet of gas, they say that could fuel cars in Virginia for 4 years and could fuel homes for 9 or 10 years in Virginia. And so to me, it's vital that we know what's out there. It's vital that we know what resources are potential. It's vital that we stake out our claim as Virginians on the part that we should be able to manage off our coast and not let Maryland or North Carolina get it. And then we can see, I think that technology continues to improve. So overall, the significant economic development opportunity this is, we don't have anything this significant, especially as we begin over time to lose some of the military, if we do. I'm not saying we will, but if we do competitively begin to lose the military, this is a wonderful replacement. I don't know of anything that's anywhere near, these kinds of numbers in terms of jobs and economic development.
You can't match it anywhere else. Now, what about the argument of getting Virginia a piece of the pie, like the southern Gulf states, Mississippi, Louisiana, where they actually get a portion of the revenue that comes out of it? Right now, that's not in the making. How do we make that work?
Pardon me. Well, you're right. I mean, that multiplies. That's a multiplier. I think that's a negotiation with the federal government. That's a multiplier of what we would produce otherwise. I've seen numbers there that could approach $2 billion by 2035 if we're able to get that share of that. So we leave that up to hardworking guys like Congressman Ridgel and our United States senators to help us figure out how we negotiate that. But there's nothing on the table if we don't get started. And, this isn't going to be something done overnight. But let me just say again, I'm just as worried as everybody else is about safety and about what it could do to our coastline. But I just believe that the technology has continued to improve. We learned a lot of things, after the disaster in the Gulf. And it's the price we pay. Here's the other thing, John. Look, we have these guided missile destroyers. We have these aircraft carriers. We're sending young men and women, I've talked to you about this before, on these ships right over the top of these 500 million gallons of oil, 2.5 trillion of natural gas and cubic feet of natural gas, and they're going somewhere else in the world to defend for our oil ability to have gas, have oil shipped from other countries or shipped to other countries.
Yeah,
so
it makes no
it's
sense.
almost morally bankrupt to say we're putting people in harm's way to protect an asset that we have sitting right off our shore. It's if you had a child on one of those ships heading over there, and you and I know a lot of what we're doing in these countries is about oil. If you got a child on one of those ships and you could say, well, you know what, we could safely get this right off our own coast, you'd be convinced it's something you should do.